So it looks like we are kind of hovering at a certain number. So I think we can go ahead and get started. So who is this person rambling at me? My name is Liz McGonigle. I'm a Senior Associate Dean of Admission at Bates. I have been at the college for 5 years. So I work in admission and I get to read applications for a variety of territories, including all of Pennsylvania, Northern New Jersey, Colorado, New Hampshire, and Canada. I have some new territories this year, which is really fun. And I will be moderating for today. So I would love for our current students, the stars of the show, to introduce themselves. And then actually, before you introduce yourselves, I'm going to just provide a couple of housekeeping items for the crew tonight. So we've got this great group of students, Bates students here, and then we have all of you as well. We would love for this to feel casual and interactive. We know that one thing that's really missing out in this virtual world is the opportunity to have one-on-one casual conversations to get your questions answered. So at the bottom of your Zoom, we have a Q&A function. Please use that liberally. We would love to answer your questions, and we'd love your questions to drive the conversation this evening. So don't be shy. Feel free to shoot any questions that you might have, and I'll go ahead and share them. I will be the one moderating, so if we're a little slow to respond to your questions via typing, just hang tight, but we'll do our best to get everyone's questions answered. If you need to leave, if you need to go get dinner, if you need to swing in or out, whatever, that's totally cool. But we're hoping tonight, again, can be like a casual, fun conversation where you can get a really good sense of the authentic experience. So, and I'm seeing some questions come in. That's awesome. Send them in and we'll come up with a couple of themes for us to tackle tonight. So with that, enough talking from me. I will start. We're going to do introductions. So for all of our Bates students, if you could tell us your name, where home is for you when you're not at Bates, what class year you are, what you're studying, and any activities you participate in at the college. And Imti, you're the first on my screen, so if you wouldn't mind kicking us off.
Yeah, sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Imti Hassan. I'm a part of the class of 2023, and I am from Portland, Maine. I am pursuing a major in politics and a minor in Chinese. And on campus, I serve as a student government representative for my class. I'm a part of this program called Forte Foundation as an ambassador to promote more women in business. And I am the community liaison of the Women of Color group at my school. I would love to answer any questions later, but I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna go with Aisling. Do you wanna go next?
Awesome. Sorry, I was like already in the chat. So my name is Aisling Kelly. I am from Hanover, New Hampshire originally. I am a junior here at Bates, and I am majoring in both Spanish and biochemistry, which is, you know, the most classic combination of fields. And I have a concentration in physics. Some things I do on campus. I work for or volunteer for Bates EMS, which is our on-campus emergency medical services team, a bunch of kids with EMT licenses, and we respond to emergency calls on campus just to shorten the time it takes the ambulance to get there. And I also work in admissions and as a peer educator in our academic resource commons. And I am in Nitwits and on the Frisbee team. Those are like the things I do.
Awesome, thank you. And Josh.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joshua Red. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm a senior at Bates College and I'm studying Africana. You probably know it as like Black Studies or African American Studies in like your respective regions. And a couple of things, I do a couple of things on campus. So I'm a Bonner leader through the Harvard Center. I'm the co-president of the Black Student Union. I'm a member of the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee through Noel Chaddock's office. And I think I do something else. Oh yes, I'm also a PWSA as well as Aisling. So I do also like tutor and help write and stuff like that for certain classes and stuff like that. So yeah.
So none of you are busy at all is what I'm, no, that's awesome. What an incredible spread of activities and interests. Thank you all for sharing. So I love it for our participants, for our guests tonight, you're sending in questions. This is so helpful. We're going to do a hybrid of answering some live and answering some over chat. But to start us off, I would love to ask a first question for folks. How did you get connected with Bates? And then why did you ultimately choose to come to Bates? Let's go backwards this time. Josh, do you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, sure. So I don't know how everybody else's high school like did like the whole college recruiting thing. But for me, I went to a high school in Brooklyn, New York, of course, called Uncommon Collegiate Charter High School. I was able to meet a whole bunch of Bates recruiters that sat down with some students who were interested. We also do it for grades. Like we had to sit down with somebody like 2 or 3 times every month to like for a grade in one of our classes. And I was listening a lot about, what sort of things Bates had to offer, the types of students that go to Bates, the type of work that they do on campus and off campus once they get to Bates. And it was very appealing to me. I was in the process of choosing between Colby College and Bates College. I visited Colby a couple of times. I never had the chance to visit Bates. I had a teacher who actually went to Bates that went to my high school. And so she was talking to me a lot. She talked to me a lot about it. She gave me a whole bunch of like Bates shirts before I even did anything involving like applying to Bates at all. And so in October of about 2016, I think I applied to Prologue, which is Bates's Fly-In Diversity program, where they recruit a bunch of students of color from around the country to come visit Bates for 3 days and 2 nights. And I fell in love with the community on campus. I fell in love with the faculty and the staff who were welcoming and introduced us to everything on campus. I made a lot of friends just in my short amount of time being there. That ended up being some of my closest friends once I came as a first year, the year after. And yeah, so because of that experience of getting to meet other students of color as well, I applied early decision in November of 2016, and then I found out that I got in December. And so yeah, here I am 4 years later.
Awesome. Josh, do you want to do popcorn for the next speaker?
MC.
Awesome. For me, my experience, since I am from Maine, I've always heard about what Bates was, but I really didn't know what Bates was. All I knew, it was located in a small town here in Lewiston, and I did not know anything other than that. So I started, like, when I was in my junior year, started formulating a list of colleges I really wanted to like check out and see. And I've always heard a lot of good things from my guidance counselor about Bates and the students that go there. And so I believe it was around the fall of my junior year, I decided to go up to Bates just to do like a small tour and like sit in on the info session. And as soon as I was on campus, I had this like rush of energy just hit me. I was like, whoa, like I started to picture myself here. I started to like picture myself grabbing lunch from Commons, or like sitting down for a picnic on the quad. It was just because of the amount of energy, compassion, just the teamwork and the community vibes that I was getting from the admissions and the students that were at Bates was just like amazing to me. And so I decided to apply to Bates just because I've had such a great experience from that one day being there. So when I got accepted through regular decision, I was also split between Colby and Bates as well, just as Josh. So I went to the admitted students weekend for both schools. And as soon as I came to Bates, it was just like a done final decision, just because of the amazing opportunity, resources, how willing and compassionate the faculty and staff are for the students. And I honestly could not see myself at another institution just because of how unique and how kind and loving this school is. And so I made the decision to come here as soon as I came to the admitted students weekend. And I am so grateful and thankful for that decision. And I'm very happy.
Awesome. Last but not least, Ashley.
Hello, sorry, I'm typing out the last of this answer.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
if you want me to do the two at the same time. Aha! It let me do it. Okay, sorry. Okay, my coming to Bates story is very similar to Joshua's, I feel like, in that I had someone that like pretty much was like, here, take the shirts. And then if you have the shirts, you must go. So my neighbor went to Bates. He was a member of the class of 2014. And he brought all of his friends. He made me apply because I was kind of like looking at different schools in the Northeast. And he was like, just apply and then we'll like cross that bridge when we get to it. And then once I got in, he brought all of his friends from Bates that lived in New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, like wherever, to a dinner. And then we all had dinner. And it was like all of these guys that were like 25 and had lived in like a house off campus. And they're like, go to Bates, it's the best. And then we played like cards all night and I asked a bunch of questions. They each like brought like a t-shirt or like a sweatshirt or something. They're like, now you have to go. And I was just so impressed that like all of these guys that were in like that had very professional jobs and had lives outside of convincing a senior in high school to go to Bates all came together and were like, you need to go or at least just visit. And so I did. I visited. And it was the first college that I visited on a list of like 5. It was a week off I had of school and I was going to visit Bates and then 5 other colleges in that week. And as soon as my mom and I heard Clayton Spencer talk, I was like, she's our president and she's incredible. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's incredible. And then we went and had lunch with students and I was like, oh my gosh, they're incredible. And then we like went to the library and everyone was like super chill, even though they were probably like studying for finals. And I was like, they're incredible. And so I canceled all the other tours and my mom and I stayed in Portland for the week. And I decided to come to Bates. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer as soon as I spent time on the campus.
That's awesome. I think you all touched on the energy of the Bates College campus. And I know for many of our people visiting tonight, you can't make it to campus, but hopefully that energy comes through in the students that you're connecting with tonight or doing a virtual tour or something of the like. But thank you all for sharing those stories. It's really awesome to hear them. So we have a bunch of really great questions coming in, and I'm trying to think of what to tackle first. There are a few questions about our location in Lewiston and Auburn and how Bates students interact with the Lewiston and Auburn communities. Are the locals open to having Bates students hanging out and being around? What is community work like in Lewiston and Auburn? So I'm wondering if one or two of you would like to provide some insights into Lewiston and Auburn connecting with the community.
As a student that so I've been working in the Lewiston community since my first year. That was one of like the biggest things. I think there's also a question here that also asks like, where has Bates exceeded your expectations? I think that was one of the things that I noticed as soon as I got to Bates was that there was an open, because I'm somebody who I want to be immersed in wherever I go. I don't want to just come here and act like a visitor and just like go to class and then just go to my room and then that's it. Like I think that as a college student, regardless of what institution you end up going to, you're committing to being a part of a community that's been here before you were even here, right? And so I made it my mission to sort of engage and interact with the community that's outside of Lewiston. And so since my first year, I've been working in the elementary school. So I worked at Barwell Elementary School. I worked at Longley Elementary School, and I also for the past junior year I worked in Connors Elementary. And so I think that, sorry, my brain started getting flustered. But in terms of like the community engaged part of like my experience, I think for most Bates students, community engagement is a part of their experience here. I think most Bates students do something, if they do at least one thing in the community, whether it's every day or every week, or if it's every month, there's at least one Bates student you could possibly meet that does something in the community all the time. And I think that usually the way that people respond to Bates students, I think that they have a rightful sort of hesitation, like, you know, we don't know you. We're gonna have to learn, like you'll have to earn our trust first before we can actually like see how you are as a person, right? Because we don't know you, you just came, and like we've been here forever, and like we always see big students doing this, that, and third. And so I think that once you actually like get into the community and unlearn all the biases that you may have, um, and you realize that this is a relationship that you're getting involved in, not like a community service project or some sort of like saviorism project, right? This is a work that you're doing to help yourself learn and also help other people learn as well. I think that the conversation tends to be a lot different and a lot more positive and a lot more impactful as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on the community that we're surrounded by or our work within Lewiston and Auburn?
I can speak a little bit to just like my experience. So I come from Hanover, New Hampshire, which is like the opposite of a diverse town. So I like when I coming to Lewiston, Auburn, it was a different environment than I'd ever been in, and something that I found just incredible about our community engagement program is the way like we approach community engagement and like the language we use and how careful and considerate we are, because in a lot of other in many other situations have gone about improperly, it would very much come off as like this institution that is a predominantly white institution, that is one of the most expensive colleges in Maine. And coming from that place, it can kind of come off as not condescending, but almost condescending in a lot of ways that some institutions go about community engagement, and a lot of places call it like community service. So I think that something that I've just really appreciated about Bates is how much awareness and like how much people will call you out for like how you approach community engagement. So like I did a lot of work with one of our local elementary schools, and just as a mentor program learned a lot about, I was working with two kids whose parents were refugees from Somalia, and it was just so cool to like get to work with them. They had like a lot of questions about what it's like to be in college in America, and it was just a really cool experience. And you get to like meet incredible people with incredible stories that I mean I never would have had the opportunity to, coming from where I come from. So I think that community engagement is so important to Bates, just because we don't like the town isn't Bates, it's a community that we have been put into, and to try to become a part of it is just the coolest experience ever. So I really recommend that everyone tries to get out into the community as much as possible.
I think we hear from a lot of students that their relationship with the town is a big surprise, but a really positive and important layer to their academic and extracurricular experience at the college. So thank you both so much for sharing. Josh, there is a question specifically about the Harvard Center, so maybe I'll let you answer that in the chat function. But also related to our location in Lewiston and Auburn, beyond the Harvard Center for Community Partnerships, which if you're interested in learning more about this concept, Google Harvard Center for Community Partnerships. I'll throw something in the chat function so everyone can see. But beyond that, there was a question about getting around here. Do you need a car? Are there any things that people do off campus on the weekends? So if, yeah, would anyone like to take that?
I can speak to it a little bit. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to get around if you don't have a car. I had a car last year and I don't have a car this year. So there's electric cars that Bates has that you can call at any point during like the kind of like work hours of a day, and they'll take you anywhere around Lewiston, Auburn. Priority goes to people with medical appointments. So like if you have a doctor's appointment at Central Maine, you can get a ride there. It is walkable distance, but sometimes for medical appointments you probably can't walk there, and especially in the winter, so you can get cars for that. And then there are shuttles that also run towards different stops, like pretty much on a loop, so that'll be like different schools, so people that are in education classes can get easy access to doing their hours for education. And then there's also zip cars. There's a Concord coach that stops right outside Chase Hall. So if you want to get a bus to Portland or Boston, that's really easy. And other than that, you'll get to know students on campus that have cars. I feel like that's honestly the most common thing, is that you'll find friends that have cars. And well, don't like go around being like, do you have a car? Do you have a car? Let's be friends. it's the other way around, hopefully. But yeah, so it's pretty easy to get around. And again, we have cars on campus that you can call up and be like, hey, Stan, can you drive me to CVS? And he's like, yeah, I'm on my way. They're all really great to people that drive the cars. So
Thank you. And then a follow-up, someone just said, is it common to have bikes on campus? Yes, bikes, scooters, skateboards, etc. We actually had to create a skateboard holding space in our dining commons for the number of skateboards that are on campus. So yeah, it's very common to have all of those elements on campus as people whiz by you and get around. So yeah, thanks for sharing a little bit more about that. So continuing with this idea of the weekend, there was a question about what students like to do on the weekend. And I know there's a lot of variance. So maybe if you all wanted to share one or two things that you like to do on the weekend. And Imti, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, some of the things that I do on the weekend with my friends is we tend to like to be outside, just especially during the fall and the spring because the weather is so nice. And in Maine, the fall leaves are just spectacular. So like taking hikes is a fun, common experience. We have a small mountain nearby that friends like to go up to. And also within Lewiston, there are some stuff that you can do. I love going to this cupcake place called the Cupcakery to grab a quick bite. Or there are a lot of great smally restaurants in downtown Lewiston that I love to grab and enjoy. And there's a variety of different things you can do on campus. There are, I know clubs host some movie nights, some arcade nights, art nights like painting. And so there's just a lot to do within weekends. So I've never had like a dull moment when I was on campus.
Josh, since you're in your senior year, do you want to share a little bit now that you have that perspective of being at the college for a little while?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry, I was typing a response to it. Sorry.
No sweat. I know you guys are doing such an incredible job of responding and talking all at once. It was just about weekends. What do you like to do on the weekends with your friends at the college?
Yeah, so since like the start of all of this, I had mentioned in one of the questions that we answered that, we do have to really rethink about how we like sort of have fun on campus now because of all the different restrictions for our safety and stuff like that. On like a typical weekend, all of my friends and I would gather, come together, all that stuff, but we can't do that. And so we've been doing a lot of just like off-campus trips, sort of like going to Portland, going to some restaurants, or even just doing something that's pretty like just chill and just like sitting outside of somebody's dorm or like sitting on our friend's porch and just talking about our week or stuff like that. I think weekends here are now like they're pretty chill. So I think that people are thinking about sort of new ways as to how they can like connect with their friends because it is very different than how we used to connect when I was a first year compared to now with all of this craziness going on in the world right now. And so I do think that it is definitely like a learning curve, but I think that like, we're still thinking about new ways to like connect with each other that keeps us all safe and that like doesn't risk any of us getting in trouble and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's a work in progress, but I do think that like we've all been making do and I don't think that me and my friends are complaining. So like it's going pretty well so far if I say so myself.
Thank you. And just to provide a little bit of context for folks, so Bates students are on campus. Our students had the option of coming back to campus for learning remotely, taking a gap semester or a gap year. Majority of our students opted to come back to the college and a majority of our professors opted to teach in person. So about 75% of our professors. So we have a bit of a hybrid model, but we've been really fortunate to be really successful. We've only had 2 cases so far this year for over 1,700 students and faculty, and adding faculty and staff to that list is a pretty high number. We're doing robust testing. So we're testing twice a week. And if you're interested in learning more, I'll throw in the chat a bit more about our response to COVID. But for me as a staff member, I think I talk a lot about the mission statement at Bates and the values of Bates, being a steward of the wider world, a connected member of the community. And this is where I'm seeing Bates students live out that value. You have all been so conscientious and thoughtful, and it's been really incredible to see as a staff member that you're taking it all very seriously, but you're still having some fun and finding joy in being connected to one another, even if things are a little bit different. So just wanted to provide some context. Speaking of weekends, speaking of fun and social things, I'm wondering if each one of you just wants to share your favorite Bates tradition quickly.
I like Sankofa, which is like our annual MLK Day performance where students of color are able to put on like a play or a skit, fashion show. The creative possibilities are endless and they're really up to the students. And you get to see all of the different students of color on campus come together and sort of just show us that they're as amazing and as great and smart and just impactful as we all know they are. So yeah.
I also loved Sankofa. It was as a first year last year, it was just an amazing experience. And I was a part of one of the creative events that occurred. Another really fun thing that I really enjoyed was our winter carnival. And also one of our biggest events of the year, which was the puddle jump, where the whole Bates community comes out with the support of Bates security. You see a bunch of like people with wacky costumes jumping in the puddle in February. It's just like an amazing time to show school spirit. And I was just laughing and giggling the whole time. And Mia was saying you have to at least try it once before you graduate. But those are like some of my favorites.
I like the dances. I like get migraines all the time, and going to the dances always gives me a migraine, and it's always worth it. They're so much fun. I think that I was just giving a tour and Ronan and I were talking about how like the dances really show the lack of hierarchy at Bates, and how like just every grade comes together and will dress up in crazy costumes. And that's a theme. That's definitely a theme at Bates, is that we like to dress up in crazy costumes. So like at 80s, we'll all get super dressed up in 80s type era clothing, and then we'll listen to 80s music, and it's outside and there's free pizza, and it's just so much fun. And there's going to be first years, sophomores, juniors, seniors there, and everyone's going to be just having such a fun time. And so I think that was like the first, that's one of the first weekends at Bates is 80s. And so I think that my first year 80s was when I really realized what a community Bates is. So that's continued to be my favorite part.
Fantastic. Yeah, you have to talk to like elderly staff members like ourselves to learn how you dress 80s like, or you could Google it, both good options. Fun, I like those traditions. I was not a Bates student, so I haven't connected with many of them, but I do like that Bates students show up for one another, and you really get a sense of that as a staff member, that people go to events, they participate, and that's really great. And I think part of that's connected to us never having fraternities or sororities, the openness of our campus culture and community. So we have had a couple of questions about what is a Bates student? Are Bates students collaborative? Are they competitive? What makes a Bates student a Bates student? And this is a tough one for me to answer on the road, because from my perspective, you are all so unique and different in a really beautiful way. But I'm wondering, Josh was interested in answering this live. If maybe you want to keep, or Josh, if you want to wait a second, if someone else wants to, are you good? Josh wants to kick us off on sharing a little bit more about what makes a Bates student a Bates student.
That is a really like hard question, because I think that everybody is so different here. But I think one thing that really glues all the students here together is I think that they are extremely engaged in what is sort of impacting their lives. I don't know if that's how I wanted to say that, but I think that there's like a real like passion for like learning and growing here that I didn't necessarily not to throw like shade at other schools, anything like that, but like that I didn't get like that same sort of like vibe from like other schools that I had visited. And I think that's why I ultimately ended up choosing Bates, because I felt like just being a student here, and thinking about what they consider if once they actually accept you as a full like as a student, thinking about the ways that like, they put testing aside and they like do all of these things that would otherwise be sort of create these presumptions about who you are as a person, as a student. They discard a lot of that and put a lot of onus onto your essay. And so I think that like that in of itself shows that they're looking for a specific type of student that is like engaged and very committed to just creating something and being a part of things that are greater than themselves, because they all ultimately want to make the world a better place. And they want to use Bates's intellectual foundations and their resources to sort of propel them to that space where they are able to articulate the type of world that they want to live in and the type of worlds that they want to create. And yeah, I think that's what I gathered.
Anyone else, or is that was a beautiful answer? Thank you. Does anyone else want to share, or do you think that Josh really said it?
You really set the bar high on that answer.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it with that. That was great. And I think for prospective students, when you're thinking about how to get a sense of the Bates community, a Bates student, my recommendation is to connect with as many community members as possible. So you're doing that right now. You're meeting 4 members of the Bates community, 3 current students, but they're also, you can take live virtual tours with current students. You can reach out to students who work in the Office of Admission. You can follow student clubs and organizations on their club and organization Instagram pages. Follow those by going to the Bates Instagram and seeing who Bates follows. So there are lots of other ways that you can hopefully connect with our community and get a sense of what a Bates student is. But I think Josh, you really did a beautiful job of articulating that. Thank you. So another question related to the community is about advising and resources on campus. And I know Josh and Aisling, you both have experience with resources. So wondering maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that. And then MT, as someone who is newer to the school, but still you've got it figured out, a little bit about advising.
Yeah, I can talk about resources at Bates. So Josh and I work at the Academic Resource Commons, or the ARC, which is a really good acronym because it kind of is this like arc with all these different positions that it encompasses. So it is also the place of many acronyms. So Joshua and I are PWSAs, which are Peer Writing and Speaking Assistant. So we are attached to specific classes. So that W1, the first year seminar that you guys have probably talked about in tours or info sessions, those classes each have a PWSA assigned that took the class. So they are there with office hours outside of class. If you need help with writing an essay, if you need help giving a presentation, they're there. If you just have questions about the content of the course, they can also be there for that. And this semester I'm a PWSA for a Spanish class, so it doesn't necessarily have to be for first year seminars. A lot of writing courses will have a PWSA attached. Then there's also PAL leaders, which will actually attend the class with you. So all classes are professor taught, but a PAL leader is kind of a very close comparison to like a TA, like what you would expect from a TA. And we do have TAs as well. So again, lots of acronyms, lots of different positions. But in general, when you walk into the ARC in the library, there's different content tutors, again, students that took those classes there. So you can just walk in, ask questions. There's a writing center. So if you have any questions about an essay, it doesn't have to be necessarily someone that's assigned to your class. You can ask questions there. And then there's a math workshop in the basement. And there are incredible mathletes wearing awesome yellow bibs to signify that they are there to help you with your math needs. So those are just some of the student resources on campus, but the library also has like research resources with adults. I know, adults that work there, crazy, that we also have adults helping out in the library. No, and they're great if you need help citing stuff, finding articles or anything. The library is just full of resources, IT resources, book resources, lots of help, and it's all free. So take the help. That's all I can say.
MT, do you want to tackle a little bit about your advising experience?
Yeah, so not only do you have a student resources as a first year, you also get placed in something called a first year seminar. So when you are about to come onto campus, hopefully, you would be given a variety of different classes that you could potentially take, and then one that suits you to your taste. I picked a seminar class that was in regards to history. So not only is this like a very writing intensive class, through this class I gained someone who's an advisor because he is a professor, but he's also my first year advisor before I declare my major. And so this advisor is someone who you can speak to in terms of academic troubles, or if you want to be connected to a specific resource, or if you need support of any kind. They have office hours, or if you can't make that, they always try to like come for you whenever you need. I know last year my advisor was like a very impactful person because I was having a really difficult time trying to pursue what I wanted to do because I was really confused, and he really helped clear my head. And now I'm really happy just because of the amount of support and advice I gained from that advisor. Also, as a first gen, which means like you're the first person to go to college in your family, you also gain a advisor through the Bobcat First program, which is our first generation student program. So they're also there to help you with any advising, or if you're having any difficulties settling in, they're also really good resource for you. So there's a lot of like adults on campus that are there and will help provide any assistance to your needs.
Thank you so much. And there's another question somewhat related about how accessible professors. The answer is very. So it's a 10-to-1 student to professor ratio at Bates. All of your classes are taught by professors. And this is the type of community where you will swing by their office for coffee. You might walk their dog. You might head over to their house for dinner. They'll check in on you if you're sick. It's a warm communal environment. And I think that really adds to the academic sense of the campus as well. When you know your professors, you're comfortable challenging them and they're comfortable challenging you, and it really elevates the academic experience. So very accessible academic community at the college. And very understated as well. I'll have conversations with professors and have no idea that they're like big deals and doing work with NASA and stuff like that. So a very approachable crew, despite their many academic accolades. So we have a bunch of questions coming in about outcomes, the Center for Purposeful Work, how we prepare students for life after graduation. And Bates certainly has a bit of a unique take on how we prepare students for life after graduation with the Center for Purposeful Work. So questions are around internships and career placement, et cetera. And Josh, I know you've recently gone through this process, but throwing this out there for anyone, if you'd like to share a little bit of information about how you feel like Bates is preparing you for life after college.
And so I can start because I think that like the things that I've done on campus sort of connect directly to what I'm going to be doing post grad. And so I've been working with kids since I started, since before Bates, but I wanted to come to Bates because they had a program that specifically allowed me to work with kids in like the elementary schools, and that's like one of the reasons that I applied, because I saw it on the Harvard Center's website, this like awesome position. And so since like my first year, I went from being a BCAT to being a community outreach fellow to being a Bonner. So I've done a whole bunch of just different things that involve me working with kids. And I think that having the chance to see all these different teachers and all these different educators in different spaces and in different ways and interacting with their students, I think it just continued to inspire me to like continue doing that work after I graduate. And so I think that the work that I've done on campus and through the Harvard Center has sort of helped me visualize where I wanted to see myself after I graduated from Bates. And so that's how I knew as soon as I graduated, I wanted to be a K-4 teacher, because Bates gave me a plethora of opportunities to meet all these different teachers and meet all these different students and see why the work was so important and why the work was so just insightful and just impactful. And so, yeah.
I can also speak a little bit to it. I'm in pre-health, so I'm thinking of doing med school, but I'm not sure yet. And there is a health work listserv. Listserv is like a big thing at Bates. There's a billion of them, and you sign up for like about 100 in your first week. But one of the ones that I have found very helpful is the health work listserv. So Karen Dagler, one of our pre-health advisors, will send out emails like twice a day, sometimes a lot more, with different opportunities. So it's not only opportunities for seniors, like here are like full-time jobs in Boston. It's not just that. It is a lot of that, but then there's also like opportunities for internships. And what I find most incredible about the listserv is that there will be different like emails and opportunities for students in the LGBTQ plus community and medicine, like students that are students of color and that are interested in medicine, like a lot of different grants for people that don't have the easiest time going into STEM. And there's like a lot of women in STEM programs. So I've found that to be really incredible about the listserv. But yeah, there's also a lot of shadow programs where Bates alums or parents of Bates students will host Bates students so that they can get an idea of what it's like to work in whatever they may be working in. And they're still doing that virtually, even though obviously we can't like travel from Bates, but there's still virtual shadows going on right now.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to throw in the chat a couple of other resources for folks. If you're interested in learning more about the Center for Purposeful Work, explore these links, especially if you're interested in the medical fields. You can look at pre-health advising. There's a lot of interesting targeted information. And then Aisling, I think hopefully you're available to maybe answer some questions as well. So hopefully that was helpful in getting a sense of how the college prepares you for life after graduation. I'm going to, so we don't have a ton of time left, which stinks. We have so many amazing questions coming in. I'm like trying to keep up. I love how you all are thinking. This is great. One question, well, I'll ask it as a two-part. The first was someone asked if you had to or could change something about Bates, what would that thing be? And this is a time where like, I think it's fair to be authentic and share honestly one thing that you would change about the college.
I get this question so much and I never know what to say. I don't know, maybe Imti or Joshua, if you have something on the top of your head, maybe you want to go first.
If you can't see all the panelists' faces right now, they all have like thought bubbles coming up and light bulbs and they're like deep in thought. So anyway, so
I think for me, one thing that I would love to see is an increase in the amount of like programming that is specifically relevant to the sort of events that are going on in the world right now. I do think that Bates does host a series of different conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, stuff of that nature. But I do think that there is like a need to not only address all of that, like all of that stuff that's important, like critical race theory and all of these things, but also just meet the basic needs of our first gen Black, Brown students of color on campus, our queer students on campus, our undocumented students on campus. I think that since this year, I personally have felt like there's been a lack of sort of programming that was like sort of relevant to what's going on in the world right now. It sort of feels like, we're like just floating around Bates College when it's like there's just so many things to be talking about that I feel like nobody is really going out of their ways and speaking about, and all the people who have the sort of responsibility to do those programmings and do these events aren't necessarily doing that. And so I feel like if that's something that I wish I could change, like right now, like as of this date, 7:48 p.m., that's something that I would love to see change. Yeah.
thank you, Josh.
I
Anyone
agree
else?
with Joshua. Yeah, I think I think that the conversation happens in a lot of like small bubbles, and I think that we don't ever really get the opportunity, especially like now, to talk about it as a school or to have programming specifically geared towards it. Like we in ARC, we had a lot of like trainings, and like our 6th training was diversity and like how to be peer educators and promote inclusivity. And like all of the comments on the forum was like, why wasn't this like the first one that we did? So I think that it's also hard in COVID, but yeah, that's definitely something that I would change about Bates. Is I wish that there were more opportunities to have like uncomfortable and hard conversations that are necessary in order for us to really progress as a school. I think that on the whole, we do a really good job of being an inclusive campus, but like being inclusive is different than like starting to actually change the way that we can go about in the real world. So yeah, I totally agree with Joshua.
And I also echo the sentiment of Joshua and Ashley. Like, you guys put it perfectly, and it's something I'm really hopeful to see within the next few years while being on campus. And we do lack in that, but for sure, I think there needs to be more of that soon.
Thank you all for sharing. And this is, when you ask about what makes a Bates student, I think this is a really incredible example of it. You challenge in a very important way the communities that you're a part of. So thank you for sharing your honest reflections on that. And you know, college wants to and needs to be better. So thank you for sharing honestly, and hopefully that was helpful for our students. It's hard to change gears after that conversation and that honesty. And I don't know, it feels silly to shift radically, especially just taking a moment to understand this moment in time that we're living through. But I guess not to be Pollyanna about this, but there was also a question about what makes Bates unique. And I do think that this is part of what makes Bates unique, is the desire of the community to challenge itself to be better. But I'm wondering if students also had other reflections on other things that you think make the college unique.
Something that I think is really unique about Bates, and like, again, sorry to bring in such like heavy topics, but like I think that that is what makes Bates unique. And like coming in from a high school where we didn't talk about mental health, that is like so huge at Bates, mental health. And I've found, like, not just among students, like, yes, it's really easy to talk to other students about like, hey, I'm not like doing great right now, but even more so on behalf of the professors. They're so incredible about mental health, and they are like so caring, and genuinely it is always like put yourself first and like put your mental health first in like in everything that you could do on campus, like in on-campus jobs, in like any work that you do for the campus, schoolwork, just emailing like, I'm gonna actually be off campus for a week, I just need some time, is accepted like across all of the different things you can do at Bates. And I think that that is just like the best part of Bates, is that you as a person are like the most important, and not like your grades or like what you contribute to clubs. It's about like you and you and who you are. So I have really appreciated that part of Bates.
Imti or Josh, anything you'd like to add on something unique about the college?
I think like I would definitely say that something that's really unique about the school is like the I think even in the ways that we transitioned off campus, right? Like in March, right? Like we didn't just tell our students to just pack up and go home, right? Like we created those social safety nets for our students to get home safely, get home with as much less of a burden as possible. And I think that is truly something unique about the school, is that I think that, while we do have a lot of work to do, I do think that Bates is one of the few institutions that I feel comfortable saying that there are a lot of people here who genuinely care about our students, and they are making intentional and direct actions that keep our students safe from harm, safe from financial burdens, safe from these violent experiences, whether it's racial, whether it's, you know, something that happened in terms of somebody's sexuality. I think that Bates pays attention, and they take care of their students when times do get rough, and when they do get hectic, like they did March of 2020, when we all had to unfortunately transfer to a remote at such like a strange and weird time. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you both for sharing. So MT, I'm going to throw the next question to you. We've had a few questions about taking yourself back to being in high school. The questions range from what's one thing you wish you knew before arriving on campus, some advice you wish you had to get the most out of your campus experience, or even just a little bit to touch on what your experience was transitioning from high school to the college. So taking yourself back to being in 12th grade and arriving on campus or getting close to arriving on campus, what advice would you have for this crew of attendees? And it doesn't have to be Bates specific. This can be information that can cover you for, you know, wherever you end up next year or in 2 years, whatever class year you are.
Yeah, for me personally, the biggest thing I wished I did was just pause and live within the moment, because I felt like I was consistently always looking at the future. I was like on the go, 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 go. And I really, really forgot to like just calm down, experience the moments and the memories I'm making now, rather than worrying about things that's gonna happen in like a day or two. That's just one of the things I would say. It's so precious to just live in the moment. And I also realized how important it is to really take time for yourself and for your mental health and your well-being. I especially like realized that I would say I'm very extroverted, but even people who are extroverted need to like really take time to do the things that they love to do and like be on their own. Like maybe that's watching a movie or like eating your favorite snack, etc. But I really wished I did that towards the beginning of my freshman year. But I really realized as I went through, I felt pretty overwhelmed because like I had a lot on my plate, but I forgot to like take care of myself. Now looking back at it, I am doing a much better job at that, and I have all the support from like my friends and my advisor and my teachers. But just know the transition between high school and college is hard at first, but just remember the people who support you and who love you. And it's also a very exciting period in your life. You make a lot of great memories and a lot of awesome friends. So just live in the moment is my biggest advice to y'all.
That's awesome. And Josh, oh, Aisling, just something?
I was just gonna say, like, my advice is the exact same as Imti's. Like, if I like could go back to my freshman year self, I would be like, go to CAPS now. Like, don't wait, because I think that like everyone when they get on campus, freshman year, they're like, you have to say yes to everything. Like, you have to say yes to this orientation event and this, and like, yes, you meet so many people that way, but it's also so important to like not say yes to everything. And sorry, when I say CAPS, that's our counseling and psychological services. That's free at Bates, and it's just like so nice to like go into an office and like talk to someone who you don't have to ask them like how are you, like you can just like spill and mind dump for like a good hour. And I don't know, I think that it's really important to take care of yourself, no matter where you end up, because orientation is crazy. So yeah.
Josh, any last thoughts on that?
I think that, well, two things. I think that I would have been more comfortable I should have been more comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't like being uncomfortable when I feel like I don't need to be. And so I just like don't, like I just don't take the risk to be uncomfortable when I feel like I don't need to be uncomfortable. And I was uncomfortable my freshman year. So like I didn't, well, not really my freshman year. I was uncomfortable more so like my orientation week. And so I just refused to like do anything that made me uncomfortable because I didn't want to do it. But then on top of that too, I think that to going back to freshman year, I think that I would have, if I could do my freshman year over again, I would have respected my own boundaries a lot more. And this, yeah, I would have respected my own boundaries a lot more, and known like what made me comfortable and held myself accountable for that, and telling people that like, you know, this certain thing makes me uncomfortable, so I'm not doing it, and not feeling bad for it, not feeling bad about it. Um, and yeah, like, you know, even if I would have made like the drastic decision, because I'd already been here for a week before orientation, so I had to do everything orientation week all over again. And so I was like, you know, even if I would have done something drastic, like go home during orientation week and come back on the first day of class, like I would have been able to like sit with that, knowing that that was my choice and that's something that I personally felt comfortable with, and not have felt sorry for it. So I think like when you get here, when you get to whatever institution you go to, just make sure like grow, because you don't grow unless you're uncomfortable, number one. But then also, if you are genuinely uncomfortable, don't feel like you have to do anything that is making you uncomfortable needlessly, or making you uncomfortable to the point that like it's traumatizing or like traumatic or anything like that. Because the choice is with you, and like whatever you gain from your college experience is what you gain from it, not necessarily how comfortable you make everybody else, or how much of a burden you don't want to feel like you are for everybody else either. So those are my 2 cents.
Thank you all for sharing your words of wisdom. And I love the themes that come out: be uncomfortable, but also take care of yourself in the process. So good things to think about no matter where you end up for college. I do like to say that college isn't about the place that you go, but it's what you do during your time. So for any of you who are seniors right now, you're probably feeling a lot of things, a lot of stress. Just take a deep breath. You're going to be fine. You're doing your research right now, which is incredible. So we hope that this was helpful for you in some way as you get to know the college a little bit more, this place. Know that we are feeling for you. We know that this is challenging in a number of ways for everyone right now, but we're here to provide support for you if possible. So our email addresses are on our website, the admission website. I'm on the staff page, and then we also have an Ask a Student page. And our students are so generous and wonderful with their time and available to provide some answers. So don't be shy. Feel free to send them an email. Feel free to send me an email. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if you're looking to connect with more Bates community members, we're going to be hosting Bobcat chats for the rest of this week and all of next week as well. So if you're looking to learn more about sustainability, our unique community, if you're looking to learn more about research at the college, what our faculty are like, what athletics are like, you can jump in and join any one of our Bobcat chats, and they promise to be just as interesting. We did not get to every question, so I'm going to do my best to go ahead and to answer those afterwards. But thank you so much for your wonderful questions and for your time and energy, and especially at a Zoom heavy time. And to our panelists, thank you so much for sharing more about your experiences. It was such a joy to get to know you all a little bit better. And if panelists want to just hang on a minute, we'll go ahead and end the session. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Bye.